What's that on your t-shirt?
It's the poster for the film Aliens, Brad.
And what are you drinking?
A cup of tea.
What's the video about, Karl?
It's about aliens and tea. Aliens is one of the greatest movies ever made, and it's hard to imagine a world where it didn't exist and we only had footage of Bill Paxton getting his shit rocked by a Predator and a Terminator. Apparently though, production of the film was almost halted in its tracks by the British production crew and their insistence upon drinking a nice cup of tea every single day, and an asshole director who thought he could do better than James Cameron.
Well, Karl mentioned the great Bill Paxton there.
Yes, I did. And I mentioned it purely because I want you to put in the clips of him getting his shit rocked by three of the most iconic creatures from the 80s. The Terminator, the Alien, and of course, the Predator.
Let's dance! He's not the only one, is he?
No, Lance Henriksen has also been killed by all three. And I love the idea that there's only two actors who can say that happened to them. But what I like to imagine is that if those two guys ever met up, right, obviously before Bill Paxton sadly passed away, I think Lance Henriksen's still going, so you hang in there, mate. If they ever met up at convention or anything, they talk about the fact, it's like, isn't it cool that we've been killed by those three creatures and no other actor can claim to have been like, had their shit rocked in such an awesome way? And then Sean Bean materialises behind them and goes, excuse me, fellas, I think I might be able to throw my hat into the ring on this one. And they have a big old argument about who's been killed by the coolest thing.
Because Sean Bean's coming in with the whole quantity over quality there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's what it is. It's like, you may have been killed by three of the most iconic creatures in cinema history, but have you been killed by an Urukai?
Have you been killed by a herd of stampeding cows?
That's never a real thing.
I'm pretty sure that one's
That's
there.
not real, is it? If that's real, you put the clip in right fucking now, brother, because I want to see that shit. That's amazing. Right, the one that I like though is there was a headline once that made me absolutely lose my shit, where it came up Sean Bean to play Julius Caesar in play with predictable results. That's fucking brilliant. Moving back to Aliens, despite the success of the first movie, Fox didn't have all that much faith in a sequel, and as such only gave James Cameron about $18 million to direct the sequel and gave him a pretty tight production deadline of about 80 days.
Cameron didn't direct the first Alien movie, did he?
No, it was directed by Ridley Scott.
So how did he end up directing the second one?
Well, apparently Cameron ended up directing Aliens by just calling up Fox Studios and saying, look, I want to direct a sequel to one of your movies. Can I come in and give you guys a pitch? And Fox was like, okay, Mr. Cameron, we'll give you a couple of minutes of our time. I don't need a minute, I need 30 seconds. And before I tell this story, I want you, as I'm telling this story, to represent the Fox executives' reaction to what James Cameron is doing. Use that clip of Vince McMahon absolutely losing his shit that we've all seen online somewhere. So according to Hollywood law, James Cameron, obviously, he knocked on the door and he walked in. And he looked over to the Fox executive and said, hello, I'm James Cameron. Cameron then walked over to a whiteboard that had been placed there before and picked up a pen. With that pen, James Cameron then wrote on the board, in massive, huge block letters, the word alien. After he'd done that, Cameron then drew an S at the end of alien to make the word aliens. Finally, Cameron then got the pen and drew two lines through the S to turn it into a dollar symbol. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is genuinely how James Cameron ended up directing Aliens. And I know we put in that Vince McMahon thing as a joke, but I imagine that's exactly what Fox executives did. And they just saw dollar symbols flashing in their eyes.
So it was like a room of 20 people and all their chairs fell over.
Getting back to Aliens once again, the exceptionally tight production schedule meant that James Cameron obviously wanted to get a fucking rush on, which didn't sit well with the British crew who were more content to just sit there drinking tea.
How does British people liking tea slow down a production?
Because production would halt every hour or so because the tea cart would come in and all the British crew would stop whatever they were doing and walk over to get a cup, which annoyed James Cameron so much that he got into daily screaming matches with the crew about their insistence on drinking tea whenever they wanted to.
You say the British are so obsessed with tea that just the presence of tea makes them automatically beeline towards it?
I'm not saying that, but that's what happened.
Is there a specific example of the crew walking out of a scene midway through?
Yes, there is. According to people who were present during production, there was a story that tells of James Cameron spending hours setting up a cool establishing shot of the alien queen, and as he was about to yell the word action, the tea trolley rolled on by with its squeaky wheel and all the production crew just walked out the front fucking door. And that alone is bad enough, but if you remember that scene, you might remember there's a lot of cool alien mist floating around. The production crew left the front door open to the studio, so all that mist just floated out. So they had to reset up the entire scene. Can you imagine how fucking annoying that'd be? You spend hours setting up this shot, and then you just hear a tea trolley go on by, and every member of crew drops what they're doing and walks out the front door. And then all the mist follows it. Even the mist wants a tea break.
It'll be even more annoying if he feels a tap on his shoulder and turns around and sees like a Downton Abbey-esque old lady offering him a cup of tea.
No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be Mrs. Doyle from Father Ted.
Now then, who's for tea?
Me, please, Mrs. Doyle. Tea! Sick!
You know what I can picture now? It's reminded me of Tomb Raider, when the waiter follows you
that
around.
butler who follows you everywhere. Like, he's so committed to giving you a cup of tea. He will stand there as you unload on him with dual Berettas to the chest. And he's down on the floor. You think, is he dead? It's like, no. His will to serve is so strong. He pulls the bullets out of his body like a fucking Terminator, sits up bolt right like Undertaker in like WrestleMania, and comes back towards you with that tea with his hands outstretched like an undead shambolic corpse who exists only to serve tea. That butler is a fucking pro, and I hope he got a promotion. The one that always got me is I did the exploding Lara cheat in front of him once. Now let's imagine, like he writes in his diary, today I went and served the mistress some tea. She stood there in her training room. She did 3 backflips, paused the game and exploded. I found a thigh on my front. That poor fucking butler, man.
Tea, Lara!
I told her she shouldn't have had the second cup.
I know what it's like to be on a film shoot and there's just someone not doing the right thing.
Yeah, I know what that's like as well. And I can imagine what it's like for James. Don't give me that look. I can imagine what James Cameron was feeling like, bearing in mind he had like a multi-million-dollar project that he had to finish in 80 days, and every hour or so the crew were just walking out for 10 minutes and not doing any work.
So what did Cameron do to try and get the staff on his side?
Well, the first thing he tried doing was yelling at them, but that didn't seem to get him anywhere. As anyone who's ever worked for a boss who yells will know, you don't listen to the boss who yells at you all the time. So what he tried doing is he changed tact, and he heard throughout the grapevine that some of the crew working for him didn't think he'd cut his teeth enough in Hollywood to helm such a large project. So what he did is he got an early cut of Terminator, which hadn't been released yet, and had a screening for the crew to show them that he was legit and that he knew what the fuck he was doing, and then explained to them after the fact what his vision for the film was.
So this worked then?
No, because the crew, although they did like Terminator and saw that James Cameron, had some directing chops, still walked out of shooting a few days later at the behest of the assistant director, Derek Cracknell.
What was Cracknell's problem?
Well, Cracknell didn't think that James Cameron was, experienced enough to helm the movie, so he went out of his way to torpedo his position as director by, conspiring with the crew against him.
What was this guy's name again?
The guy who didn't direct Terminator. There it is, yeah. As if having his own assistant director attempting to undermine his authority at every given opportunity, and having to work with a crew who didn't like him or would stop working randomly every hour or so wasn't bad enough, James Cameron was also at loggerheads with his director of photography, Dick Bush, through most of production.
Dick Bush?
Yes. Dick Bush. Let's just all take a moment to just bask in the glory of that name.
What was Bush's problem?
Like Cracknell, Bush thought that Cameron was too inexperienced to helm the movie and argued with him about how to light certain scenes which Cameron didn't like. To be fair to Bush, he did know what he was doing, but he did tend to make kind of stupid suggestions that I'm glad Cameron overruled him on.
What suggestions did he make?
Well, for example, do you know the scene where the Marines discover the alien nest?
Oh, great scene.
Yeah, the scene that's only lit by the flashlights of the Marines, highlighting the devastation caused by the alien horde and making the Marines look powerless and insignificant despite the fact they're holding giant whack-off guns. Well, Bush wanted to light that scene with giant fucking spotlights.
Wouldn't that ruin all the atmosphere that scene has?
Wait, Brad, so you're telling me that scene would have lost some of its impact and, like, you know, the claustrophobia we as an audience feel watching it would have been lessened somehow if it was lit entirely by 80,000 lumen spotlights that just washed everything out?
Yeah, and also there's something about darkness that makes scenes look larger and more ominous because you never know what's out there in the darkness.
Yes. Also, as well, I'd like to point out the first film, Alien, is famous for its use of light and dark because the titular creature is black, so it blends into the darkness, and the idea is you can't tell if it's an alien or machinery.
Yeah, the thing about practical effects is they require angles and lighting to make them look amazing.
Yeah, which the Alien films are like amazing at. Like, I think there's a famous scene that's cut from the first Alien. We can use an example here, where the alien crawls backwards like a crab. And they cut that scene from virtually every version of the film that exists, and I think it's just a deleted scene on the DVDs because it looks so stupid. Yeah. It's the one time that you see the alien like fully lit, and you can tell it's a guy in a costume. Whereas every other scene in that movie, it looks really ominous. You can barely see any of it, and your imagination fills out the rest because that's what darkness does. For some reason, James Cameron didn't like the idea of completely washing out the alien nest scene with 80,000 lumens of eye-fuckingly blinding light, and told Mr. Bush if he didn't want to make the movie he wanted to make, he could fuck off, and he fired him and Cracknell.
Well, yeah, if you're trying to sabotage his film.
Yeah, you are actively trying to sabotage this movie I'm trying to make. Fuck you both.
We've seen the movie now.
Yeah.
It's good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been better, though, if it just had, like, fucking giant spotlights everywhere? James Cameron fired them both because they were actively trying to sabotage the project. And I believe he told the crew, it's like, look, we don't like each other, but let's just try and make a good movie. And they kind of, like, eased off on him a bit after that. According to people who worked on the movie, after that day, whilst the relationship between Cameron and the crew was still quite tense, it was otherwise amicable. On the 75th day, Cameron gathered the entire crew together to deliver a message.
What was Cameron's message to his crew?
Well, he gathered them all up and told them all, very matter-of-factly, I hate you all, and making this movie has been a nightmare from start to finish. The only thing that's kept me going is knowing that when this movie is finished, I can leave and never come back, that you will all be stuck here forever. He then told the crew that production had officially finished and that he was going, and he left the studio and never came back.
It's so gratifying to leave you wallowing in the mess you've made. You're screwed. Thank you. Bye.
We have a lot of tea breaks, don't we?
Yes, we do. I even had one today, and I finished my tea like a good boy.
It's really annoying though if sometimes I have to cut them together. I rearrange clips.
The mug swapped hands, or I put it down because I'm finished with it. Or sometimes, I think in one video, I even have a different cup entirely. So we went down and made another cup of tea. But yeah, I like living in Britain where like tea breaks, they're not part of the law, but everyone's like, nah, come on, they are though, aren't they? So you're not, like, there is no legal guideline saying you've got to have a tea break, but come on, I'm having a tea break.
I'm sensing a story coming on now.
Well, yes, there is, Brad, because as people who've watched these videos before may know, I used to work in a restaurant. And when I worked there, I always insisted upon taking a tea break every hour or so. And what I do is I do a loop around the restaurant. I'd ask every member of staff, would you like a cup of tea or a coffee? And I'll get you one. And I used to do that with everyone who walked in, including our cleaning lady. However, the cleaning lady technically didn't work for the company that we did. She was an outside contractor. And my miserly boss, who I've again mentioned in other videos, didn't like this, and every time I made her a cup of tea would complain about it. And I remember coming, like, I think actual arguments with my boss about the fact I was making the cleaning lady, the person who literally cleaned up our shit, a cup of tea when she'd finished doing her shift. And this came to a head one day, and this is true. She was saying, like, Karl, like, it's company money you're wasting here. Like, don't make tea for like other people. Like, you've got a charger. Bear in mind, we charge £2.50 for a cup of tea. It's a fucking bag and some hot water. She didn't even have sugar in it, this clean lady. She just had a fucking tea with a splash of milk. So I remember I went, okay, I'm going to double check this. And our big manager, who ran like basically the entire division we were working for, just sat having a free cup of tea for me. So I walked over and went, oh, hi there. I've been talking to, like, you know, the manager, and we've like had an argument, and wonder if you can, like, you know, weigh in. And you can see my manager in the background fucking fuming. Because we were always told, don't go talk to this big manager. And I was like, no, fuck that. She gets people kissing her ass every day. She must love it when someone comes and actually talks to her like a human being. So I proper went over and like worked the northern charms. Like, all right then, how you doing? Do you want a drink, love? And she fucking loved that. Went, yeah, I'm being told that we can't give away cups of tea. Is that correct? And she went, well, that is correct, Karl. You shouldn't be giving away anything for free. I went, even to the cleaning lady. She went, what do you mean? I went, well, I like to give our cleaning lady a cup of tea when she comes in each day. And she goes, well, that's perfectly fine. That's very polite of you, Karl. Who's saying you can't do that again? I went, oh, it's the manager over there. And just pointed right to her. And she slunk back into her office and went, why would she tell you off for doing that? That's very nice of you, Karl. I appreciate you doing that. It's always nice to look after, people who help us out. And I thought that too. Have a nice day. Would you like a refill on your coffee? And she went, oh no, I've had enough. And from that day on, I never got told off for making it. Do you know what? Every time she walked in, I made her 2 cups of tea. I made her one when she come in and one when she walked out. I started giving her tea to fucking go. Oh man, I can't stand that attitude of people. It's like, it's in the Magna Carta, man. Give people a cup of tea. We're entitled to it. You can't expect someone to pick up your shit and not have a cup of tea for it. Ridiculous.
Karl,
What?
would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah, let's go get one. Sweet.